So we still have the actual button clicks functionality left. We don't even have our game logic yet. All we have done so far is set the generate the random board, and also, stylize things, of course. So we still have a couple things left to do. But before we do any of the big stuff, I want to do something kind of trivial, but to me personally, it's important because I want to make it as close to this as possible. Look at what happens to a smiley face when I click down. You see, he's kind of surprised because he's scared. There might be a bomb here. So that's something that I want to do. Let's see if we could implement that. Before we go on, though, let's close a lot of these folders because it's getting out of hand. Now, yes, so we have here. And I'm gonna have a couple smiley faces. Smiley face. We're gonna have like the surprise look here. We're gonna have a dead look, and we're gonna have the win look. But it's very hard to constantly go over here. Excuse me. Go over here and get a smiley face. So I'm gonna define the smiley face in another enum. So let's make another enum. So let's reopen our types. And we are gonna have, what should we call it? Export type faces. We'll just call it face. And it's actually gonna be an enum, not a type. And enums don't have an equal sign, they just have this. Now we are going to have a smile, which is gonna take the value here. In this case, for this enum, we're actually gonna give it values like this here in this enum and this enum. We didn't give it value because we just decided to give it the default value, which is numbers that start from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. But this one, we want to explicitly give values so that whenever we reference them, we will get this value. We have the what should we call it? O face. And we'll just call it O face. Show emoji, this one. And we want lost face, which is gonna be this one. And one face, which is the sunglass one. And now we don't have to constantly refer to this anymore. We could just use this enum here. So let's first begin by replacing this with the enum. So we gotta import it first. Import face from types, like so. Instead of using a smiley face here, we'll use face, in curly braces, face dot smile. Let's see if that works. Oh, let's close this. It seems to work. So, excuse me. In order to give it the confused face, whenever we click, we have to add an event listener for whenever we're clicking. Specifically, this is the key down event. So on key down, we want him to have the confused face, and on key up, we want him to have the back to its original face. So let's do that here. And the way that we do that is we have to create an event listener in useEffect, which is how we access lifecycle methods in React, in a functional component, Let's import useEffect from React. Inside useEffect, we take in two parameters. One is a function that we're going to call, and second is a list of dependencies encapsulated in an array. So let's put our function first, and we are going to add two events. Window add event listener, and the one I'm looking for is key down. And once the key is pressed, I am going to do this. Let's see. Let's define a function, except I want us to put it in a utils folder. Whoops, that's way too small. Export const handle key down. What type does it take? What is the type of this E? Let's see. Key down. Key down event. React. Oh, it's a mouse event, I believe. And we have to import this because we don't have React here. React from React. And what we are going to do with the key down is, are we gonna do anything with this E? Actually, I don't think we're gonna do anything with this E. So we could either leave this here, but because we're not gonna be using the parameter, we could just get rid of it. We are going to, we have to set the face. So maybe it's no longer a good idea to put it in our utils because we need access to the face. We need access to the set face function in our hooks, the set face hooks. So I changed my mind. I'm not gonna put it in our utils folder. Instead, I'm just gonna define it here. Const handle key down. As a matter of fact, we're only gonna access this within the use effect. So we could just define it within the use effect, like so. And what we are going to do is set the face. Sorry, so we actually do not have a face variable right now. So that was my mistake. So let's define a new hook, a new state variable called face. And this one will contain the face of our smiley face. And our initial value for that is going to be face.smile. Like so. And when we press key down, we are going to invoke, we're going to set the face to face.o, the confused face, the worried face, you could say. And the function we're going to add to is the one that we just defined, handle key down. And that does not seem to work because we didn't put our second dependency here. Although I'm not sure that will fix it. Yeah, it doesn't fix it yet. Let's see. It's because we still are referencing face.smile instead of our state variable here. And let's do that, face. Now let's see if it works. It still does not work. Let's see why that is. Handle key down, window add event listener key down. And you know what? I'm getting confused. It's actually mouse down. So this one, I'm also going to call it handle mouse down. Handle mouse down. Now let's see if it works. And it seems to work, except we don't want it to stay as this confused face once we set our key back up, like so. We want to change it back. And the way that we do that is add another add event listener. The opposite of mouse down is mouse up. And we're gonna define another function. Here, const handle mouse up. By the way, we could type these. This one is going to be a void function because we're not returning anything. This is completely optional. You don't need to do this. This is also going to be a void because it doesn't return anything. And we are going to set face here, face.smile, back to smile. Let's see if that works. Yep, so it seems to work. However, we have to do something. Whenever you add event listeners, when the component unmounts, you have to remove the event listers. Otherwise, you're going to waste a lot of memory because the event listers are always going to be there. So the way that we handle component did amount, I forgot what the actual component lifecycle was called because I haven't dealt with class-based components in a long time. But the equivalent of that, how to handle that in a functional component in hooks, is you return the function that handles that. And we're going to do window, remove event listener, mouse down, handle mouse down, and window remove event listener, mouse up, handle mouse up. Now let's see if everything is working. Yep, it's working. I mean, he's still saying oh on the parts that he's not really supposed to, but whatever, this is good enough. So that's good. Okay, so now that we have that, now let's get the game logic started. So we need a way to tell our component when the game has begun. So when a game begins, the timer should start ticking. I believe this is the timer here, and this is the number of flags. So let's take care of that. What we're gonna do is introduce a new state called time, set time. And we are gonna initialize this as, by the way, let's give types to all of our states. So this one's type is cell, array of a cell. We have to import cell. We could just put that in our types here. Let's type our smile, our face, which is just gonna be a face type, and our time is going to be a number, which will be start at 0. And I know we haven't dealt with this in a long time, but in our number display, remember the second one is a counter. Instead of putting a hard-coded 23 there, let's just reference time. Now this should become 0. Yep, that's good. And let's see. We need a way to determine when the game begins. So I'm going to introduce a new variable called isLive. Set is, or let's just call it live. Set live. If this is going to be a Boolean, and we are going to default it as false because we're not going to assume that the moment they come to this page, the game begins, meaning the timer starts off. No, we're going to set it as false. And once they click somewhere here, set live will become true. So what we are going to do is this. Let us give event listeners onClick events to our buttons down here. And where do we reference the button in our index? We reference it in our render cells method. It is right here. So we have to give a new function to it called onClick, a prop I mean. And let me just organize this real quick. onClick, handle click. No, let me give a more appropriate name. Handle cell click, how about that? And what else? That's it. So we have to define a handle cell click here. Const handle cell click. So normally, maybe you put like a E here and like this, but we need a way to distinguish between what cell has been clicked. And the way that we distinguish each cell is the row and the column that it's in. So I'm gonna make this a function that returns a function like so. And the first parameter that we get is the row, and I'm gonna call it row param so that we don't have any naming conflicts later. I could call it row, but I'm gonna call it row param, short for parameter. And this is gonna be a number, and a column param, which is also going to be a number. And the return of the second function that's returned is going to be void, I believe. And I don't think I'm going to make use of this E, so I'm just going to erase it. And let me show you what's going to happen. So we have to define a new prop in our button component. So let's go in there. Here is our button component. we have an onClick event. This is a function that takes in row param, which is a number, call param, which is a number 2, and it returns a function like so. And let me alphabetize this, and let's also bring it out, destructure it in our props like so. So when we click the button here in this outer div, we are going to add an onClick, which is going to take the onClick, call, invoke the onClick prop that we gave here. Now this takes in parameters. What are the parameters? Take a row param and a column param. Well, we know the row and we know the column, like so. Now this is airing out because function is not what we have to use here. So if you want to be really technical, what the return of this is React mouse event, I believe it's called, that returns a void. So here's like the very anal way to do it, but who has time to do that? And that's not even that helpful. How about generic void function? Let's just do this. Args is any void. Just like that. If you don't know what this means, this is just like a generic void function, which takes in any amount of arguments and returns a void. That's good enough for me. All right, so let's see if our onClick event handler is connected. Let's console log row param and column param. Let's see if we get, so here, if I click this, we should get 0, 0. Yep, we get 0, 0. Here, I think it's 8, 8. Yep. So it seems to work. Those are connected. And let's do this. The first thing we should take care of when we handle a click in the cell is if the game is not live, if live, then we want to set live to true. So this is start the game. All right, so also the moment live becomes true, whenever I'm gonna introduce another use effect here. And the dependencies for here, we're gonna have dependencies. This use effect will only fire if our live state variable changes. So inside here, we're gonna say if live, meaning if the game is playing, then we wanna do something. So we will only come in here if the game wasn't live and this changed to become true, then you will come in here. That's the only time we will get in here. Then we wanna start the game. So when a game begins, what happens? The timer starts counting that, all counting up. So let's do that here. So we will do, every 1 second or 1000 millisecond, we want to change the state of our timer, of our time. So the way that we do that is use interval. Set timeout, set interval, I mean. This is a native JavaScript function. It's kind of like set timeout, except in this case, let me just Google set interval real quick because there might be some other features to it that I am not remembering. All right, so set interval, and how do we stop the interval? That's clear the interval. I think that's what it's called. Yes. So I don't like W3 schools. I like MDN. But they don't seem to have it. Okay, whatever. Just stick with. All right, so what do? we put it in a variable, and then we do something. So we gotta first put this set interval as a variable. So what should we call it? What do they call it? My variable? No, that's not a good name. I'm just gonna call it timer. And it will run every 1,000 seconds. And what it will do every 1,000 seconds is set time to time plus 1, like so. Now, why did I put in a variable? Because again, because we don't want any wasted memory, once the component unmounts, we want to return, this is like the component did unmount, we want to return the clear interval. We want to clear the interval so it stops checking the time and doing all this every 1 second. By the way, I put 1,000 here because that's 1,000 millisecond, which is the same thing as 1 second. And we want to clear the interval. And what are we clearing? The timer. Now, there is some issue with this, I think, but let's just see what happens. If I click, the timer should begin. There we go. What if I clicked again? And it's not going up anymore. Do you see this? The timer is not going up. This is the issue. Let me just show you guys again. Let's refresh the page back to 0. We click 1, but it doesn't go up anymore. And the reason for that is within the context of this set interval, when we reference the time here, we're doing time plus 1. He has reference to the old time. So let me console log time here, and let's look at the time. Time 0, time 0, time 0. So to him, the time is never going up because in the context of this function, this set interval, he is referencing the time when this was defined. So what we have to do to take care of this issue is put another dependency here, and we are going to put time as a dependency, meaning whenever the time changes, which is essentially what happens here when we set the time here, we are going to make a new timer with our new timer. Obviously clear the old timer and then put a new timer. Now let's see if this works. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's very good. That's good. All right. So let's also take care of this. When we press this, everything should refresh. So let's take care of that too. Where is face? Let's close this. Here's face. We're gonna put an onClick event handler here. On face click. How about that? We don't need to distinguish between different faces because there's only one face, so we don't need this part here. On face click, how about handle face click? Handle face click. You don't need anything from inside. This is gonna not do anything, so we're gonna return void, which is returning nothing. And when we click this, if live, if the game was live, we're gonna do a couple things. First, we're gonna set live to 0, set live to false, set time to 0, and what else? We want to clear the board, right? So we have to set, like let's say we had a bunch of stuff, like here, once we're gonna clear the board. So the way that we do that is this. We have to set the cells back to generate cells, which will give us a random set of a board. Let's see if that works. I mean, we won't see the board reset because we don't have a functionality board of the board, but the timer resets. That's good. And once we click, it starts again. That is good. Now, what should we do? we gotta take care of the flags. Let's take care of the flags now. So if I right click, I should, if you see here, if I right click, I put a flag. And the moment I put a flag, the counter goes down. Do you see this? 6, 5, 4. Because there are 10 bombs. So theoretically, if I put 10 flags at the right places, then my game, I have discovered all the bombs. So let's take care of that. Now, how do we take care of a right button click? We know how to do a left click, which is just onClick event. But to handle a right click, it is, and I need a reference for this because I don't remember top of my head. I think it's something with context. Yes, it's a method within. Let's go to our button here. See, we have an onClick here that handles a click, but we need a handle right click, which is the property name for that. The correct property name is onContextMenu. And when we do this, we want an I'm just gonna call it an onContext, and we're gonna give it a row and column just like above, onClick above. Obviously, we don't have this defined yet, so let's just assume for now that it's defined. I'm gonna destructure it from our props, type it on context here. It's gonna be essentially the same shape as onClick, like so. And let's give an onContext to our button here. So it's giving us an error because we need onContext. And it's gonna be handle cell context. How about that? Make this method handle cell context right here. It's gonna look exactly the same as this. Obviously not the inside though. So not this. And what do we want to do once we click? Let's first make sure that we are in here once we right click. Oh, by the way, I'll just show you guys later. We are in right click. So I right click and we see we are in right click, but we have a problem. I don't want to open this here. So I want to forbid the user from opening this menu. The way that I do that is just this. We get an E, and the event, the type of this E is React mouse event. If you want to be very specific, it's HTML div element. That's what we clicked, and just a mouse event. That's how you're supposed to type it. How did I know that? I've done this so many times that when I go here, I see it. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it shows me right above my mouse what it is. Where were we? So we were right here. The first thing we want to do before everything is e.prevent default. We want to forbid the menu from opening. And now it's no longer doing it. That is good. And now we want to do this. Let's first grab the cell that this refers to. So where did I click the right? Where did I right click? Current cell is gonna be cells at row param and col param. All right, so now we got a couple options. If it has been clicked, such as here, right clicking there does nothing. Do you see this? So if current cell dot state is cell state visible, God, the open and visible is such a terrible name, but whatever. All right, so if it's visible, do nothing. So return. What else do you want to do? Else if current cell state is equal to cell state open, meaning there's nothing there, then we want to put a flag there, right? So the way that we do that is this. We have to set ourselves to one where that one has a flag on it. So the way that we do that is this. Let us do this. I'm gonna make a copy of cells and just replace that cell element though that I'm interested in, and then set cells back into it. Const, let's do this, const current cells. Should I call it that? Yeah, why not? And I'm gonna make a copy of cells by just slicing it. That will give me a copy of everything. And if it's open, we want to put a flag in our row param and column param. So the way that we do that is current cells at row param and at call param, and we want its state to be cell state dot flagged. But not only that, we want to do a couple things. And by the way, after all this, we have to set cells to current cells, because we can't manipulate state variables by just doing this equals that. We gotta use the set hook. We gotta use these hooks here. So let's see. There's a couple more things that we need to do, but let's just make sure that the flag is visible. Not on this, but on this one. Yep. So that seems to work. So that is good. And when I reset, these aren't. This isn't resetting. Oh, because the game is not on right now. Do you see the timer is not going? The timer doesn't start. Let me see if the timer starts. Yeah, see the timer doesn't start when we click this, which is kind of weird. So you know what? I could make it do this, but this is gonna be a headache later. So I'm just gonna, if the game is not live, I'm gonna forbid them from putting a flag. So the way that we're going to do that is this. If it's open, let's do this. If not live, then we're just going to return, do nothing. We're only going to do things if the game is live. So now I can't right click. You see here. All right, so, but once the game is on, yep, see the timer? Now I can right click. And once I click reset, everything goes away. So that is good. All right, so what else do I need to do? If state is visible, then don't do anything. If it's open, do this, okay? So let's see. I also gotta decrease this count here. Let's put a new variable here called const bomb counter, bomb count. Let's just call it bomb counter. Set bomb counter. Use state boolean, not a boolean, a number. And we are gonna default it to 10. Now we're gonna change the number value, our number input, if I could just find it. It is, where is our header? It's right here, number display, this one. So instead of putting hardcode 0, we're gonna put flag count, bomb counters here. Let's see if we get 10. Yep, we get 10. And every single time we right click, that should go down by 1. So let's do that here. By the way, there's something that I just remembered before I forget, so I want to do it right now. Once the timer becomes 999, it just stops. We don't want it to keep on going because we only have room for three words, three numbers. So let's do this. If live and time is less than 999, then we do it. Otherwise, we don't increase the timer. So that's good. I'm not gonna test for that because I'm not gonna wait 999 seconds here. However, I'm gonna take care of this, the bomb counter. And whenever we right click, which was on the handle cell context, in here, we want to decrease set bomb counter as bomb counter -1. Let's see if that works. Start the game. 8. Now, what happens? That means it works, but what happens when we cross 0? You see, this is not what we want. What do they have here? They make it so, oops, oh, that was close. See, there's a negative in the front. So we're gonna somehow style it to do that, like so. And the way that I'm gonna do that is this. Go back to my, I know we haven't been here in a while, but our number display component. Zoom this in, and let's do this. So normally we're displaying this, right? Pad start, first convert it to a string, then pad it in the beginning. But let's do this. If value is less than 0, we want to do something. Otherwise, we're just gonna default to this. If it's 0, we're gonna do this. Let's put a ES6 string interpolation, negative in the beginning, and then value. I'm gonna do absolute value, math abs for the value to take out the negative, and then to string that just like before, and then just like before, pad start that. But instead of 3, just 2, because we already have a negative. Let's see if that worked. 2, 3. Let me use my mouse so that I don't left click by accident. Yeah, so that seems to work. I could put a condition in case they right click everything, but it will never go less than 99, so we don't have to worry about that condition. There's not enough spaces to click. So that's good enough. Actually, we could, why not? So let's do that here. If bomb counter is greater than -99, set the bomb counter. Meaning we don't want that number to be less than 99. This is actually gonna cause a problem. So I'm not gonna do this actually. So just ignore me. I'm not gonna have this. I'm just gonna set it like that. So that's good. All right, so we've done that condition. Now I want to make it so that when we click it again, the flag should go away. See, when we click it again, the flag goes away and the counter goes back up. Do you see that? Went back up to 10. So let's take care of that. And we are gonna have another else condition. Else, here. Else. We could have else if, or we could just use else because that's the last condition. But just to be more explicit, let's have this state is equal to cell state dot flag. You see, a cell state could have 3 types, states. Visible, open, or flag. So we don't need this else if. We could just say else, but whatever. We'll be more explicit about what's going on. What do we want to do? We want to first set this part as, let's see, as open. We want to set the cells, and then we want to increase our bomb counter, like so. Let's see if that works. Start the game, right click again. Yep, that seems to work. So that is good. All right, I'm liking our progress so far. So let's save. Git add all, git commit message. what should I call this message? Handle right click finished. It's not technically finished, but we'll just say handle right click. And git push. So now we have to take care of what is probably the hardest part, which is actually when you click, there are a couple things that can happen. So in the very beginning, there are two things that can happen. One, when you click, see you click on an open spot, all this spreads. And this implementing this logic, when you click open on these zeros, I mean with no values, having this spread, this is a fairly complicated logic that we will do. Another option is when you just click on a number, so only the number pops up. Now, in the very beginning, it is impossible for you to click on the bomb. So I also have to make sure that's happening, because right now in our app, they could accidentally click on a bomb. And we want to forbid that from happening. But there's really no clean ways, intuitive ways to start this. So let's see. Let's just do it here. If not live, then we're going to set it to true, right? But we got to first, and put a to-do here. Make sure you don't click on, on a bomb in the beginning. So we will do that later. Now, let's take care of our click here. So let's grab the current cell we're in first, current cell, and we have our parameters. By the way, this is handle cell click. This is what happens whenever we click any of these. So let's first grab the cell where we clicked, which we do by cells, at row param and col param. Whoops, this is not how you do it. You put a bracket, no, square bracket like that. So I'm also gonna change our cells and then update set cells with our change cells. So I'm gonna define const new cells as I'm gonna begin by just making a shallow copy of our cells. Now let's begin. So if, remember we have two conditions. Here we're assuming that we did not click on a bomb in the beginning. And by the way, we could only add that logic here. We could just add the logic here. So here, now that we're here, we're not in the if not live, we're not starting the game. We could now click on the bomb. Do you understand what I mean? So we could be here by after the game started, whoops, after the game started, we could click on the bomb like this. So we gotta take care of this logic here. So if current cell is a bomb, value is a cell value of bomb. And I'm gonna make a to-do here. Take care of this. Take care of bomb click. And then else if current cell, let's see, dot value is, what else can it be? Cell value. Oh, by the way, we also should take care of if it was a flag. So let's do that here. And by the way, do we want to do anything else with it? Yes, we do. So if, no, sorry. Let's do it after our current cell and new cells have been defined. If current cell state is cell state that flagged, then don't do anything. If there is a flag, clicking it shouldn't do anything. Then we're just gonna return. Don't do anything. If the value is, let's do none. meaning we click on one of these guys here. Then we got to do the hard thing, spreading everything, opening everything. We're going to put a to-do here. I don't need to write what we have to do. And finally, the last condition is when we just click on the number. So this is the easy part. We are going to set that one to be visible. That's all we got to do. So all we got to do is add new cells at row param and at the column param. We are going to its state is gonna be cell state visible. Let's see if that works. And by the way, it's not just a time when it's flagged we don't do anything. We also don't do anything if it's visible. You see here, or current cell state is equal to cell state visible. Don't do anything, like so. If you don't like this, I think we could also do this. Cell state flagged, cell state visible includes, if this array includes current cell state, then return, don't do anything. So that's the same thing. It's a little bit more concise though. So let's set this to visible. Remember, we just clicked on number and we're gonna set cells as new cells. I'm not sure how we can test this. We gotta hope that we click on a number. Yep, so that works. That doesn't work. And that works. That works. So that seems to work, and that is good. Now let's take care of the hard part, which is when we click cell value none. So what happens when you click on none, everything opens up. So the way that I am going to take care of this is I'm going to make a function because the logic is pretty big. So I am going to, I'm going to actually make a method. No, I'll make a function. So let's go to our utils. Currently here, we only have one called generate cells. We're also going to have a function called open adjacent cells. Open multiple cells. How about that? And what he needs to know is, first he needs to know the cells. What this function needs to know is the list of all cells. It needs to know the row, which I'm going to call row param, which is a number, and a column param, which is also a number. And what else? I think that's it. And it's gonna return a new cell array, an array of arrays. Export const. All right, so let's see. How are we gonna do this? We are going to say the new cells is gonna be the result of that open multiple cells. And what do we take? Cells, new cells. We're gonna give it the cells. We're gonna give it the row, which is row param, and then column param. I believe, yep. And it's just giving me an error because it's a constant. So we could just change this current new cells to a let. And now let's take care of the logic here. So let's get the current cell const. Current cell is equal to, from our cells, row param, and then column param. So we have to first thing we have to do is open itself. And I'm assuming whenever we call this, we're calling it if it's open. So let's do that. Let me make a shallow copy of the cells again, because we're going to manipulate it. Const new cells. And I'm just going to use let. So we might change it later. Cell slice. Current cell. We got to first make visible that one. So whenever this function is called, we are assuming that the cell that has been clicked is an open one. So we're going to do this. New cells at row param and column param. Let's actually do this. New cells. Yeah. New cells row param. Its state is going to be cell state open. Now we have to see all of its adjacent sides. If we clicked here, we have to check every adjacent, all 8 adjacent ones, and see if they should be open and if those in turn should trigger more or not. So how are we going to do that? We have to do something similar to what we did up here, this left bomb, top right bomb, and all this stuff. And I actually shouldn't have called these bombs. Yeah, this was a mistake on my end. So you can do this, or you could just leave this because this function technically works. I'm going to refactor. This is generate cells function. It shouldn't be called bombs because technically what we're grabbing here is a cell itself. So we should call it top left cell and so on. So I'm just going to use the refactor function. Feel free to not do this if you don't want to. That top left cell, refactor this top cell. And when I use this feature in WebStorm, by the way, it's automatically changing every reference of it. So again, please be careful if you decide to change this. Top right cell, left cell, right cell, bottom cell, bottom left cell, and bottom right cell. And essentially, we gotta grab every single one again. So why not make a function out of this? And I think I'm only gonna call it here. So let's get grab all adjacent cells. Let's see. What parameters do we need? We need the cells, all the list of all the cells, which is that, the row that we are in, and the column that we are in. And do I need anything else? I think that's it. And I'm not gonna type what the output is yet because I may change my mind how it's gonna look like. And essentially, I'm just gonna grab this, put it here, change all occurrence of row index within this function, like so, as row param, then change all occurrence of column index within this function. Make sure you don't grab anything outside of the function as column param, like so. And what is the best way to return this? I'm just going to return this as like this, an object that contains all of these. Top cell is top cell. Top cell is also top cell. Now the shorthand ES6 notation for that. When the key and the value is the same name, we could just put commas, just erase it like that. And top right cell, left cell, right cell, bottom left cell, bottom cell, and bottom right cell. So the output, I'm going to define the output now. The type of the output is an object with top left cell, which is either going to be a cell or null, because it may not exist. Top cell, which is also that. Top right cell, which is that. Left cell, right cell, bottom left cell, bottom cell, and finally bottom right cell. There we go. So he's complaining because it's not alphabetized, I think. No, it's because we don't have a right cell. So there should be a lowercase right cell. There we go. And then we could refactor our code somewhat by, instead of having all this crazy thing here, we could destructure const top left cell, top cell, all of them from, what was that called? To grab all adjacent cells. We gotta give it, where is our cells here? Cells. Row index, column index, and what else? I think that's it, right? Yes. We're going to destructure top cells. We're going to destructure top right cell, left cell, right cell, bottom left, bottom cell, and bottom right. Let's just make sure that that works. I'm sure that works. So let's just make sure. Yeah, see, we're getting error because this is not complete yet. So let's finish this first. We got the current cell, and let's grab everything else. And I'm just gonna copy this like so, except no longer row index, is row param and column param. All right, so what do we want to do with this? What we want to do is first open, by the way, let's bring this down here. Because after we open it, then we want to start doing things. After we open the cell that we just clicked, we want to do other things now. So you have to do this. If top left cell exists, because remember, it could be null. If it exists and its value, and its value is not equal. Let's see, what is the best way? Let's actually state if top left cells exists and its state is equal to cell state dot open, because we only want to do things, open more cells if it's open. If it had a flag or if it was already visible, then we don't want to touch it. We don't want to do anything to it. So if it's open and top left cell, by the time we get to here, we don't need this question mark anymore because we already know it exists if it's here, because otherwise it would have just been false. And top left cell, his value is not equal to cell valued BOM. Although we should never technically ever get here because we're going to be surrounded by numbers before we get here. But that's besides the point. If it's not a BOM, if it's open and it's not a BOM and exists, then we want to do this. If top left cell value, again, we don't need a question mark here because if we're inside here, then we already know that he exists. So if, let's just use a ternary operator. So we're gonna say that our new cells is going to be if top left cell value is cell value dot none, then we gotta open more things because he's gonna start opening more and more things. So if that is true, we are gonna say that new cells is equal to, we're gonna recursively call this function again and have it do a domino effect. So it needs to have cells. Now make sure we pass in the new cells. And what is the top left cell's row parameter? So it's going to be row param -1. And column is also going to be call param -1. Make sure you do that. So if it's none, then do this. Otherwise, we know that it's just a number. So we just have to open up the number. So then new cells is going to equal what? Actually, I'm not going to use a ternary operator because it's not as simple. So let's do this. If, while we're in here, top left cell value is none, then open multiple cells. New cells is going to equal recursive function. Otherwise, new cells at row param -1 and at call param -1. We're just going to open it up. State is cell state dot visible. All right, so that is it. Now we gotta do this for all of our top cell and all of that. So let's paste this here. Get that, get that, get that. What else do we need? That's it. So this is top cell. And for the top cell, instead of row param -1, it is actually what? It is still row param -1 because it's above, but it's column param. It's just column param, not -1. Now let's grab this again. If not top cell any longer, 2, 3, top right cell, and it is still row param -1, but it's column param +1. Another if condition. If we did top right just now, so we gotta do left cell, and left cell, the row is on the same row, so we just do row param, but the column param is -1. Let me copy this. Now we're dealing with the right cell, and again same row, but it's a plus to the column. Make sure you're very careful here. Don't make any mistakes here because it's a pain in the butt to try to find. Let's paste this. let's get bottom left cell, and it's gonna be row param. Oops. Row param +1 and column param -1. Column is left, row is down. Yes. If bottom cell, again, sorry that this is kind of tedious, but I'm not sure how else we can do this. Row param is still +1, column param is just column param, same column. And finally, we got the bottom right cell. Then row param +1, but column param +1 as well. Now I think we are done. So assuming we have coded everything correctly, and I really hope to God that we did. It seems like we never use this current cell, so we could just get rid of it. Do I want to? Current cell. Why do we not use current cell? I guess we don't need it. So let's get rid of it for now. And assuming everything went well, we should be able to just return the new cells. That is the updated cells. So let's see if that works. And after we assume that it works, we're going to set the cells to the new cells that we just got from this recursive function here. I'm back on our app index. So, I mean, these work. Now we're getting an error. Let's see, maximum cost stack exceeded. We are calling this way too much. So we did not code it correctly. So let's go back and see what the issue may be. So to pinpoint this issue, I'm gonna try somewhere where it shouldn't call too much, which is right here. And we're still getting an error. So let's see, maximum cost stack size exceeded. New cells, open new cells. Maybe this is, maybe we don't need to slice it. Let's see if that works. Yeah, it's still not working. Yeah, so that's not the issue. We are getting an infinite recursive call. So we want to do this. I don't want to assume anything here. We're setting the new cell state as open. We're gonna do this. If let's see, I am going to actually get the current cell. Const current cell as cells row param call param. If current cell state is cell state open or current cell state is cell state flagged, then return, just don't do anything, return new cells. Actually, I don't need to make the slice then. I could make that after this if condition. Otherwise, I'm just going to return the old cells. That way, we'll make it a little bit more efficient. It still doesn't seem like it's doing it. But at least we're not getting an error. If, let's see, if current cell state is open. Oh, sorry, it should not be. It's because I used the word open. I'm sorry, it should be visible. Visible. You first want to make it visible. There we go. All right, so now it seems like it's working. Obviously, when we click on a part that has a bomb, it's not doing anything. But let's save here for now, because I think we got the logic for that down. I'll grab all adjacent cells. So I'm gonna save this. Finished. Grab all adjacent cells. Git push.